Chris Carmichael of the University of California Botanical Garden at Berkeley is an avid bird watcher, and we happen to have something in common, I guess, Chris, and that is hummingbirds.
Right.
Now, I understand that hummingbirds and plants sort of have a symbiotic relationship. How so?
That's right. They've evolved together. We call it coevolution.
Oh.
The long, thin beaks of hummingbirds have evolved to pollinate the long tubular flowers that we see them visiting so frequently.
Boy, they've just been dive bombing us here today. It's really been a lot of fun. So we can extract from what you've said then that they like a certain type of flower, and if we plant that flower, then we'll attract the hummingbird?
Exactly. You know, most people know that hummingbirds are attracted to the color red. So red flowers that are long and tubular, like penstemons, are great hummingbird plants. Many of the salvias that have red flowers, orange flowers, even the blue ones are regular hummingbird attractors.
It's interesting because have you ever noticed that they seem to like hosta too? And that's not in the red family.
But it has nice tubular flowers.
All right, so it has a good nectar source.
Right.
So they like penstemon and totally tubular flowers for the nectar, but what do they eat?
Well, in addition to the nectar, which is a high-energy food source, they eat the pollen that's found in the flowers. They also glean insects. They get a lot of protein from insects that they pick off of the flowers when they're feeding, off of plants. They'll also visit spider webs, sometimes eat those spiders, and then they'll take those webs and use them when they build their nest.
No kidding, so that's the glue that holds their nest together?
Exactly.
Wow, that's incredible. So even if you don't like spiders, there's one reason to leave them.
Absolutely.
That's great. Thanks, Chris.
Sure.
Well, hummingbirds aren't the only wildlife that gardeners like to attract to their gardens. This is Paul Licht, and he's the director of the University of California Botanical Garden at Berkeley. And Dr. Licht, how would you bring more wildlife into your garden? What are the most important things we need to remember?
You want to remember to give them something to do. And of course, what they like to do better than anything else is to eat.
Yeah.
So give them something to eat, something that will attract them. And this can be sometimes not so good. You may attract animals that eat your plants you want.
Yeah.
On the other hand, a lot of eating is involved in pollinating plants, collecting nectar and pollen.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put out the right kind of plants, you can attract almost the animals you want.
Like butterflies, for instance.
Butterflies are a wonderful example. The monarch butterfly that everyone loves, for example, requires milkweed. So you plant milkweeds and you're almost guaranteed to get a monarch butterfly. If you want the beautiful black pipevine swallowtails, you plant pipevines in your garden. And different kinds of flowers then will attract different kinds of pollinators.
Well, you were a zoologist and studied lizards for about 40 years, and we don't think of lizards in the same breath as butterflies, maybe, but they're important and beneficial to gardeners?
They're beneficial in a lot of ways. If you think about it, they'll save you money because all that lizards eat, at least in this country, are insects. They'll never eat your plants. They're the safest kind of animals in the garden. And if they eat the insects, you don't have to use nasty pesticides, which of course will also kill your hummingbirds and butterflies.
And I guess there's some other benefits that we hadn't heard of before?
Well, we're discovering new things that we hadn't even imagined. Research here at Berkeley by Professor Lane indicates that the lizard may be very important for Lyme's disease in California. Turns out that the ticks that carry the Lyme's disease bacteria prefer lizards over anything else when they're feeding. So instead of going to the rodents or deers that transmit Lyme's, they feed on lizards. Lizards don't get Lyme's disease, it turns out.
I didn't know that.
And the reason, which is good for us, is they appear to have a protein in their blood that actually kills the Lyme's disease, which means that they are essentially filtering and cleansing the ticks. After the tick is fed on the lizard, it's been removed of the Lyme's disease, so if it bites you, all you get is a tick bite as opposed to potentially Lyme's disease.
That is fascinating. Well, I guess we need to attract more lizards into our garden.
We had better protect them for our own health, and of course they're cute too. So I think you should keep them for a lot of reasons.
See these lamb racks and they're